Welcome to the 15Rocks Limited interview series, where we sit down with partners in different industries discussing how the pandemic has affected their companies and the industry now and for the future. I had the great pleasure of speaking with Bex Deadman, Managing Director of BlueCube Corporate Travel, this week. We met some 9-10 years ago at an exhibition, and through the sea of people, we looked at each other and we knew it was a must that we had to speak to each other. Since then, we've collaborated on a few projects, become great friends, and in January, we announced the partnership between our two companies. And since the lockdown, we've had to put a pause on everything. This hasn't derailed our plans, just delayed them some. In this interview, we discuss how the lockdown has affected the travel industry and BlueCube Travel as a brand and an entity, what this means for BlueCube now and for the future, and we also offer a few predictions for the industry and how this is going to affect future relationships for the better. I hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Bex Deadman, Managing Director of BlueCube Corporate Travel. Hi Bex, how are you doing?
Hey Lizzie, I'm doing good. Sitting in my garden. It can't be so bad. 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. How are you?
Yes, good, thank you. I mean, first is first. Are you safe? Are you well? That's the most important thing.
Yes, definitely. Me and all my family and all of my family at BlueCube, everyone is safe and well. We've been working from home for I think about 7 weeks now. So it's kind of become the norm, hasn't it? So all good. And I know because I speak to you regularly that you're all safe and well too. So that's good.
Yep, we all are. We're all enjoying the weather and doing the best we can in the situation.
Lucky if you've got a garden, that's what I would say. Not so lucky if you haven't, but yes.
Working with the circumstances that we have at the moment, we thought this conversation was important to kind of take a look at what's happened since the pandemic and lockdown guidelines, and also to take a look at what we think is going to happen for the future of events and travel. You know, both industries work hand in hand. We had some great plans ahead of us, didn't we? Just before we everything got shut down. And that's not to say they're not going to happen. They're just going to be slightly delayed. But
well, Lizzie, I wrote in a letter today that I feel slightly derailed by COVID-19, but my passion has not abated, and I think that's the same for both of us, isn't it? It's given us a bit more time to think. Okay.
Have you had any updates? What's the changes? How has it moved in the last 7 weeks? It's accelerated at such a speed. What has that meant for BlueCube?
Okay, well, firstly, I'll just let everybody know that I got my managing director role in December. So December, January, and February, the best 3 months ever. And then this happened. So nothing like an induction to fire. I mean, I've worked at BlueCube for 7 years, and it is like my family. It's where I want to be forever, which makes this even more devastating. But from our perspective, we've done everything we can, and we think we'll be in a position to ride this out. But to say that the industry's been decimated is probably an understatement. And the longer this goes on, the longer this will continue for. We felt it from the beginning. When our clients stopped traveling to Asia and needed refunds and all that kind of thing, and then we felt it as it hit Italy, and we feel it. Well, we felt it now across the whole world as the whole world is shut down. The reason, there's lots of reasons why our industry is decimated. The two main reasons is one, our industry exists, but there's lots of parts of our industry that nobody even knows exists, if that makes sense. So the whole reliance for what we do, for example, we're a corporate travel management company, and what that basically means is you're a travel agent, but for businesses. And 20 years ago, when I started in this industry, being able to say that you're a travel agent was a reference point. People understood what that was. But actually, even now in today's society, in the generations that are coming up underneath us, who probably don't remember going to a travel agent with their family, there's no real reference point because they think everything happens online. So there's a whole part of the industry that kind of works behind the scenes that people don't really recognize or know of. And that's the industry that's at risk right now. But this whole industry is built on the transaction, the actual the piece of travel happening. So whether that be a rail ticket, a flight, a hotel booking, everybody gets their piece in the puzzle, whether you're a travel booker like we are, or a consultant, We manage people's entire programs, so we're looking after people in a different way. It's not just about the transaction for us. But that makes this situation even more difficult, because if you earn your money from the transaction and there are no transactions, yet you still need to service your clients, it just makes the whole industry incredibly vulnerable. It's been a massive wake-up call.
Yeah.
There's been companies talking about how we can change the industry and make it less reliant for years and years and years. But nobody ever thought that travel would stop. And COVID-19 has proved that it does, and it can, and it could happen again, and it will happen again more than likely. So we have to become more resilient. And that's what conversations are now turning to. It's been if I look over the last 7 weeks as to kind of where I was at the end of February and where we are now,
Yeah.
it's incredible. It's incredible what we've been through. But we've got an amazing company. We are an amazing company, albeit we may be, some of us, on furlough right now, myself excluded, of course, on that. But we're just doing everything we can to ride this out, because we know that actually our proposition that we offer our clients is going to be so much more valuable and so much more important after this. And that's where I really see the future. So the future is bright. It's just we've got to get to the next stage of it to get through this. And I think in the last few days things have changed again. You know, we talk regularly, as you know,
Yeah.
and literally in the last 2 days I've started getting information through now from our suppliers. I've started being able to get useful information out to clients to be able to kind of say, look, this is how it's going to happen. As countries put out their exit strategies, then we can find out when travel is going to be, you know, reduced and people can travel further and that kind of thing, and we can help support that as it goes through. But it's going to change forever for sure.
Right, that's really interesting. You know, the parts you say about there's so many things going on the back end. It's just not BlueCube is not closed completely. You know, finding time to do this was a task in itself. To get fitted in, thank you very much, at the end of the day, because you are just as busy as you were before. You're just at home. So yeah, it's really important to know, especially with events as well, where people turn up and some may feel that, oh, we've just been waiting for them to turn up on the day, when really we've been working our socks off for the past 6 or more months trying to get everything together. And then those changes, for now, I think the most difficult thing is the anticipation. It's the not knowing. It's the sitting at home and getting prepared, getting used to the new normal, and then waiting for this change. And the changes that are coming, of course, there will be good and bad. Let's talk about the good ones. What's going to be better for the travel industry and for travellers in the future, do you predict?
Well, I think there's some big learnings from this. The travel industry itself as a whole, and don't get me wrong, because it's completely it's misrepresented. As I said earlier, people don't understand how the whole industry works. But if you just think about holidays and flights and take it to that sort of level,
Yeah.
for the last 10 to 15 years, it's just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and there are more and more players entering the market, whether those be suppliers or whether those just be kind of clever technology platforms to sell travel to you in a different way, which tends to be more what it's been in the last few years. It's so easy to travel now. It's not a luxury anymore. It can be luxurious, but actually it's almost a right. It's a given right that people feel that they should be able to do it. And, you know, with the advent of low cost and things like that, it's become easier and easier and easier. So people don't really think about it. They just go. And
Yeah.
we've really seen this across all of our clients. I've been working in corporate travel for 20 years, and we're beginning to ask our clients different questions now, and have been for quite some time, because they all want to reduce their spend, and that's been on the agenda for a long time. But now other things are much more on the agenda, like, you know, our sustainability, our CO2 emissions. If you're a FTSE 100 company, you have to report this. And some companies don't even have a handle on this at all, because they don't even have a handle on their spend, because they're just booking online and haven't got an agent like us to kind of help them represent all of this stuff. So it's a crazy world out there, and everybody has their own relationship with travel, because everybody travels personally as well. So everyone has their own way of doing things, and they want to bring that into the corporate market. From the supplier's perspective, there is no differentiation, because the relationship is with the traveller.
Yeah.
They forget who sometimes pays for that. It's not always the traveller. Sometimes there's a company involved, and that's where it just gets distorted and really confused. So it's a huge industry. And honestly, in my opinion, sort of being what TMC is really an aggregator. We're almost the greatest aggregators of all, because what we're doing is, the idea is, you say, I need to go somewhere, I need to be here at a certain time, and we'll do everything we can, from your leaving your house to getting you on that plane and there and back and everything. We put that whole thing together for you. So it's the itinerary planning and then putting those pieces together. It's not just about booking flights, and we really help with that, but across the myriad of travel providers that there are.
Yeah.
And that's where you really need to get to really get people to understand that travel is more than just booking a flight. There's so much more that goes to it. There's so much more input that you have, as far as your CO2 input, your footprint, your well-being to yourself. It might be easy to book it, but the actual effect it has on you and the environment around you is something that people just don't even consider, because they just put ease and my right ahead of everything else. 90% of travelers said that after their travel, that trip shouldn't have happened. They should have planned it better.
Yeah.
They should have a couple of online conversations first. Not to say it shouldn't happen at all, but it should have been planned better to get more return in investment, because they didn't expect the trip not just to be the £50 flight, but all the other bits and pieces that go with it. And that's what really should be considered. And I think that's what will be considered in the future.
Okay.
And I think that's what needs to be considered. And I think if we can come out of that and only travel when we need to, then that will be a positive thing across everything.
Okay. So the travel management company has that duty of care, which I believe you already have in place and so forth. But in the instance that the client doesn't want to listen, so you understand that this trip that they want to take may be important and it has to be done, but you're aware, looking at their levels, that it's not a good idea. At what point, how do you say, no, you can't go, without servicing your client? How does that come into play?
Well, we don't have the final authority to say, no, you can't go. What we have to do is give the client the information to make those decisions themselves, and to understand that it's not just the traveller's decision. Interestingly, this all kind of comes from duty of care, because initially, when duty of care is looked at, again, if something happens in the world, you always want to get information to the traveller. You want to find out whether or not they're affected. But if it's pre-travel, if they haven't gone yet, and of course that's important because you need to make sure they're okay, but if they haven't gone yet, it shouldn't actually come down to the traveller to decide whether or not they go or not. There's other people involved in that decision at a company level that say whether that's okay or not, whether that be HR, whether that be their manager, whether that be risk assessment and people like that. And that's all something that needs to be considered, and isn't considered. So the data that we bring in, we give our clients information across all of those different levels. So with HR, we'll help from a well-being perspective, and we'll give them the warning signs early. We'll say, look, this person's done, however many trips this year. They've got another trips coming up. This is the time to have a conversation with them, and these are our suggestions. Perhaps they could put these 3 trips together, so they're only away for a shorter time, or you could do this or you could do that, but at least check in with them. So we have to have check-in points, and that's what we do. We're supporting them in making these decisions, because actually it's also very difficult for a client to turn around to one of its employees and say you can't go, apart from a financial reason, without evidence. And there is not really any evidence that supports well-being as such yet. It's difficult to have those conversations. So we just try and give them different levels of information. Did you know that this trip was going to cost this in total? Did you know that that's going to be this much of a footprint? Did you know that actually you've done 8 trips this year, and maybe you need to have a little think about whether you're looking after yourself? And one of the idea is that one of those points will be a trigger point that will resonate within that traveller, and it will make them think. It might not stop them, but it will make them think. And this is a long-term change. People have got to change the way that they think and they approach this. So it's not a simple, quick fix. So it's just pointing in the right direction, but it's using the data we already have in a very, very different way.
Yeah, so true, so true. And also with changes, I think Paul King from your company put something up in terms of the concept of changing how we prepare for a flight in terms of cleaning and hygiene, etc. And those guidelines, if they do come into practice, will inevitably change the concept of the last minute flight or the last minute traveling, because we won't be able to just hop on a plane and move forward if we have to do all these steps beforehand to prepare. Looking at it from the events point of view, the amount of times that we've had someone be sick or someone not be able to be in another country or already in the country and not able to work, and we've had to fly other people over and so forth. This has happened so many times. It's an integral part of, you know, the logistics and in most of international events. How do you view this? What do you feel about these discussions?
Well, I completely agree with you. I think the problem is it's just not going to be so easy. There will be a time when everyone gets used to this and travel become easier again. We're about to have an intrusion. I'm just going to let you know that.
Okay.
It's a white puppy variety intrusion.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hi, Ivor. This is Ivor. Sorry, I do apologise. You're going to have to edit a little bit.
That's cool.
So I think part of the reasons it's such a complicated thing, because what we've done is made travel really convenient. So we've almost allowed, this becomes a little bit controversial, we've allowed people to become last minute with their changes, and it's not their fault that they're like that. They do that because of the amount of work and the amount of pressure, because we can work anywhere, because there's more expected of us now than ever before. You know, we've both done events where the CEO, who bless him has got to actually go and do a speech, hasn't even seen the deck 10 minutes before they're going on, because they physically haven't had time to write it. Now we just kind of go, okay, that's fine, and we build the events industry around it, and it is fine. But it's not sustainable, is it? It's not sustainable on our health. So, you know, we when we're writing these plans for event planning and travel planning, we put risk strategy, and we say, you know, in the event that someone is sick, we need to do this and we need to think about this. But these are always the things that get cut from the budget, because, well, we don't need to worry about that, we'll just fly someone, it won't happen, and that kind of thing. Well, actually, maybe we do need to pre-plan some of that a little bit more, and realize that that is important, and you do need backups, because stuff can happen, and it does. And maybe we just need to be a bit better at being a bit more organized. That sounds awful, and I don't mean it like that at all, because I know what it's like. But I have been to the most stressful of events, and you just feel for these people that are running in for 5 minutes and running out again. It's not good for anybody. We kind of thrive on it, right? Because we've grown up in this industry and we love it and we love the chaos. But actually, if we're really thinking about a person's health and well-being, if we're really thinking about that, is that the best way to do it? You just need more time. And I think the one thing that COVID has given us is time. You know, it's given us time to reflect and maybe time to think about doing things in a different way. Because I think prior to that, I don't know when the world last stopped. I really don't think it has in our lifetime, and been forced to stop like this, you know. It's just gone on and on and on and on and on, and people didn't even know what they were doing. I've got people going on trips without any thought really as to why they're doing it. They just do it. It's definitely going to change it. It's definitely going to have an effect. You know, I've seen things coming through now of exit strategies, and travel comes kind of, you know, level 5 on the exit strategy, and it's talking about potentially still being in quarantine, having to have certain certifications to say that you can travel. You know, you're not going to be able to do that kind of thing last minute anymore. And maybe travel will go back to the realms of being the luxury that it actually should be, as opposed to the convenience that it is currently. And maybe that's better for everybody.
Yeah, those Pan Am days that my mum tries to tell me about all the time, that I don't believe actually happened, with all those gourmet meals and that 5-star, triple-star service. But I think, yes, some really good points there, in the sense that, yes, it is difficult to work the way we work. We've almost got used to all the hurdles that have to be or can be jumped, and being ready.
You can do anything. Yeah, you can jump anything, but that's not the
and be ready for eventuality. Yeah, but you know, it's time to maybe consider partners, international partners in spaces, so that I think the issue is, and I think some event managers will agree, is just finding it hard to delegate and wanting to be there to make sure that everything goes according to plan and so forth. And maybe it's time to relax, trust some more people, get some international partners that can look after the logistics and so forth on that other side, so that there doesn't, you know, things can run seamlessly as we jump from country to country. And speaking of jumping from one space to another, this whole pandemic, the way we're living now has kind of accelerated companies' digital transformations. We're having to put everything online in order to keep on communicating. What has that meant for BlueCube?
Well, from a personal level, I have just utter gratitude to my Director of Technology and Transformation, Kevin. I mean, the guy is amazing. I don't know what we would literally do without him, but we were able to go online, no problem at all. We had the setup anyway. He's just fantastic. So as far as that, there's been no issue at all. Travel's completely online. Everything you book is online. You don't even have issued tickets anymore. So everything's done. It's easy from that side of stuff. Obviously Zoom and wonderful things like this, we can have meetings, and I'm just ensuring that you have meetings with your team every day. What's actually been harder is the side of the team that are furloughed, because you're actually in quite a difficult situation with them, because you're not really allowed to communicate on a work basis. So it's how do you still keep that team comradeship, because there's a whole piece about mental health around this. With people are talking about it, but it doesn't matter how much you try and convince your staff that you're doing everything you can. They're of course going to have worry. Then you can't do anything about that worry. And it's something we take really seriously at BlueCube. And I felt a bit helpless with regards to that, because I haven't been able to help them as much as I could, because I'm not allowed to. Because we could have conversations, we could do things, but we're just not allowed to. And we don't want to risk their futures by breaking any rules around the furlough situation. So we're being really strict with it, because we want a business at the end of this, and we want them all to come back.
Quite right. Yeah.
But we would love to. We would just. So the distance is difficult. As far as the clients are concerned, it's a topic that comes up all the time, because travel have been scared of video conferencing for years. But let's be honest, up until now, it's been pretty poor. This has made a massive difference, I think, and there's some great companies out there that will make all this the difference. But I think it's the right thing to do. Again, why would you get on a plane and put yourself through all that if you haven't even had a conversation with the person? You don't even know if they're the person to meet, because it's exciting to go somewhere. That's just not the attitude to take with it. So this doesn't scare me. There's going to be a certain time when travel is always important. I think we're still going to want to do events. We're still going to want to do conferences. People still need to network. We need to connect. Human connection is so important. That's how we met, remember?
That's right.
So it's essential. But it's just, did it have to be as much as it was? And I think that's the sensible approach as to how we build it back. And I think actually what our challenge is, and what I'm really looking forward to with clients, and I think actually what everybody needs right now, is some kind of black and white guidelines about what is essential and what isn't. How do I do this? I mean, even if you look on the Foreign Office, it says non-essential travel. Nobody knows what that means. Like, nobody knows what that means, because it doesn't really mean anything. It basically means you make the decision as to whether or not you think it's important enough for you. What? So how can a company add that into that? So we're putting some guidelines in around that. And I think my industry and our industry, both of us, can transform the way we work with companies by almost putting best practice as to how to get the best out of us. And I think that this is something positive that can come out of this situation, because there's so much more that we can do as we diversify to help our clients, and I think that's good.
Yeah, fabulous points again.
I told you it'd be a positive call.
Yeah, I think you're right in the sense of the face-to-face contact, seeing the whites of people's eyes is very important. I mean, we've been friends for over 9-10 years now, and
I know,
and it's wonderful. And how we met, I think that if that was done over the phone, I don't think we would have that connection.
It was electric.
It was stunning. One of the best days of my life. But yeah, so I do believe that face-to-face contact, it is really important. So in terms of those changes, it's better for the well-being of traveling and so forth. And yes, some essential guidelines with some proper points as to what is essential and what isn't, I do think is really important. Any other predictions that you foresee?
Well, from our side, it's interesting. I've seen some stuff literally today come through. BA are talking about July now for putting their flights back up. But again, this
really,
is
very
speculative.
Okay.
I know. What's interesting is, how they're going to come up again, they're gonna, all the suppliers are gonna come up with their own ways of doing things as far as cleanliness and things like that are concerned. And I think this is where the government needs to step in with some legislation to say, no, this is the expectation, this is what we expect, because otherwise it's going to become a I've got it, you haven't got it situation again for commercial gain, and that's not what this is supposed to be about. I'm so passionate about this. Every supplier's got a place, but you don't have to bully other people out of the market. Travel is about travel. So my real belief is that a flight will become a flight again. So for Lufthansa and people like that, they're saying that they're going to really kind of de-glamify the flight. You know, there's going to be no in-flight meals, there's going to be nothing to buy, you're not really going to have that much contact with staff anymore, you'll have masks, all that kind of thing, you have to do temperature checks and that kind of thing before you get on the flight. It will become what it is, which is a travel service. The only reason it's become more than that is because they're competing against other airlines. And at what point do you forget what the end point is? You know, someone's just using your service because they need to get to that place. Then there's nothing else really more to it than that. And that's where I think it's going to go. I think it will change again. It'll be interesting to see really what the landscape looks like, say, come by July. Companies are being very quiet at the moment as to how, you know, they're doing. I think, you know, companies are furloughing and doing that kind of stuff. But I do think the landscape will be very, very different.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be as many of my companies like me around. I think some airlines are going to struggle. But it will come back. It will come back. But I hope it will just come back in a different kind of way. I think it will. If we can gain control of this negativity, if we can turn this on its head and say, you know what, I'll tell you how to make your program sustainable, and I'll tell you how to do this better, and I'll tell you how to do it more cost effectively, and to look after your staff. That's a good thing, and that's something really positive that can come out of it. And that's my hope for the future. It's certainly what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, well, I know that BlueCube has a very personal touch to their client services, a real personable thing that, you know, you and I have both talked about how important we feel that is. I've had chats with lots of people saying things that this change has kind of relaxed people. I had a meeting with a client yesterday, and it was 45 minutes with him on his treadmill, panting all the way through our discussion. And although that wouldn't have been the thing to do before lockdown, it was the most natural thing in the world to just go through it and make points and changes and move forward. What changes have you seen in interaction with your clients and behavior changes?
Interestingly, yeah, as you know, we are really, really close to our clients, and we really consider ourselves a strategic partner or an outsourced sort of professional service. So we work across our whole business as opposed to just having one relationship. So, and that's the way that you get the best out of us, because we can help in more ways. So it's not changed because I know lots of intimate stuff about my clients, because I just ask questions and always have done. What's lovely is seeing their pet run across the screen behind them, or see them not in suits, you know, just see them sitting there in their tracksuits and seeing them as human beings, which is fundamentally what we all are. And if you can connect with somebody on that level, then that's really important. But what I've really found, which surprised me, but made me really happy and just reinstalled my faith, is and reinstalled the faith in relationships, is I've been able to have very, very open discussions with our clients about what's going on. I think it's just so important. We've talked about new commercial models, we've talked about how we make this industry more sustainable in the future, because it's all agreed that whether you're traveling or not, you still need advice, you still need to know what's going on, you might have a booking in the future, you've got things to think about, and that service needs to be there. Airlines still need to operate because they're still doing repatriation flights. These flights, you know, who's paying for these flights right now, and who's running this operation if they've got no revenue coming in? So it completely needs to change from that side of things. And that's the sort of thing that, you know, I hope that we can get out of this to move forward.
It's looking positive. You know, as much as we're worried about it, there are some real positive points there. Is there? I'm conscious of time, and I know you've got another call coming up, busy lady. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Um, there is something. So today I wrote a letter to my MP, simply because everything we've just been talking about, and the fact that we're not recognised, our industry isn't recognised at all. And if furlough stops for our industry, if much of us have survived as we have, we won't be able to continue, because we'll have to basically make our staff redundant, because if there's no travel, we still don't have any income coming in. So we're completely reliant on countries lifting their restrictions. And we just want to be recognised within our industry, that we exist, and it isn't just leisure, because everything comes under leisure and holidays. Basically, you don't consider business travel. So I would just like to get that message out there, that you can support the business travel industry, and everything you do by look at our stuff on LinkedIn, follow what we're doing, and just kind of push some of the stuff out there, because we are needed. We do support our clients, and we want to be there for the future. So I just wanted to get that as a little shout out, Lizzie. Sorry.
No, I'd love that. Thank you very much. And I think that things change at such a speed. I know we're going to have another conversation in the next couple of weeks. I know we will talk weekly as we normally do, but I think there's set to be changes today. So the 5 o'clock announcements, I'm eagerly anticipating some to find out what's happening there and so forth.
I mean, my real belief is that obviously they're going to start bringing industries. Let's do some predictions, shall we? Before it all starts. No, I think that they're obviously going to have to start bringing people back. But I hope that we don't obviously get a reprise. I don't. Obviously, it's all going to be subject to that. But where we sit within our industry, we are going to be the very, very last to go. And I think events does sit in a slightly different place, because people do recognise that as weddings and parties and things like that. Where we sit is just, we're just part of what a business, we're just seen as a business, and therefore businesses will be sent back to work and, should be able to do that. But our problem is that we don't have a product. We can't sell it until that's ready. So my belief is that from a travel perspective, things aren't really going to pick up until later in the year, because people need confidence as well, and other countries need to move things forward. So I think even though restrictions are going to be lifted, it's going to be done very, very slowly, as I'm sure we all know. And I think sadly we're going to be the last to really get any back to normal, business as usual for us. But positive things.
Positive things indeed. And we just got to we've just got to keep on plugging along, but with more relaxed, just a bit of fun before you go. What new hobbies have you taken on since working from home?
And money.
You have a new member of the family. And you go to
since working from home, and he's down here with my slipper. To be fair, I'm passionately, I'm working. I am. I never stop. So he's my relaxation time.
What any docu-series, any seasons or any films that you've watched that you'd like to recommend?
We've literally just started Tiger King.
Wow. Okay.
We're really behind.
What episode are you on?
Like 3.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to talk to you in a couple of weeks and tell me what you think, because we finished it here.
Well, I'm just going to say, the 2 of my friends were like, "You're Carol Baskin," and I was like, when I first started watching it, I was like, "Yeah, she's quite hippie. She's quite nice." No, I'm not so sure. Not so sure. I know.
I would take that as a compliment.
We're going to
question why you were friends with this person. On that note, Mrs. Bex Deadman, none other, no one else. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. All the love in the world. Love you lots. And
love talking to you as always.
Yeah, and I'll talk to you soon. All right. Thanks again. Lots of love.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview. If you'd like to be alerted of the new interviews coming up in our series, please feel free to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Our ID is 15Rocks Limited.